Help me reach 2,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I didn't expect my marriage to hinge on a party, but that's where it started. My name is Daniel, 38, accountant, predictable by design. My wife, Emily, loved movement, noise, friends who talk with their hands. We balanced each other until balance turned into friction. When she told me about the party downtown, I warned her quietly. Not jealousy, not control. A simple warning I couldn't explain without sounding irrational to anyone listening that night. The invitation came from Mark, her co-worker, the charming one everyone trusted. I'd met him once, firm handshake, steady eyes, too practiced. Emily said it was harmless. A birthday, open bar, harmless laughter. I said the place had a reputation. That thing's blurred after midnight. She laughed, kissed my cheek, promised be careful. The laugh lingered wrong, like a door closing softly behind her, while I stood there uneasy, silent, watching doubt settle in. I stayed home that night, folding laundry, pretending calm. Around 10, she texted a photo of neon lights, plastic smiles. At 11, another message, typoed, rushed. Midnight passed. 1 became 2. I imagined noise swallowing intention. At 3, headlights brushed the driveway. Emily stumbled in smelling sweet and sour. She smiled too wide, said nothing happened, then cried without tears while I helped her upstairs, heart thudding, questions circling, unanswered, heavy, waiting, patient, dark, alone again. The morning after felt brittle. Sunlight exposed details we ignore at night. Emily slept late, makeup smeared, phone buzzing unanswered. I made coffee, waited. When she woke, she avoided my eyes, said she had a headache. I asked if she remembered my warning. She snapped, accused me of overreacting, of mistrust. I apologized, though something cold had already settled between us like frost forming invisibly across familiar ground, spreading silently, patient, sharp, inevitable inside, home. By afternoon, the phone call started. Unknown numbers. A clipped voicemail asking for Emily. I deleted it, uneasy. Then Mark called me directly, voice strained, polite. He asked if Emily was okay. Said the party ended badly, police lights, an ambulance. I asked why he was calling me. He paused too long, then said he thought I should know before rumors reached home, before fear arrived first, uninvited, loud, undeniable, demanding answers immediately from me. I drove to the address he gave, heart hammering. Outside the building, yellow tape fluttered. A neighbor smoked, eyes hungry. Inside, a manager spoke softly, rehearsed. There had been an incident upstairs, alcohol, a fall. Names were taken. Emily had left earlier, shaken. Relief surged, then curdled. If she left early, why hadn't she come home? Why hadn't she called me at all? Despite knowing my warning echoed uselessly now, louder, heavier, accusing, relentless, sharp, true. She returned at dusk, eyes red, movements cautious. We sat across from each other like strangers. Emily finally spoke, said she'd gone to help a friend. That thing spiraled fast. I listened, measuring gaps. Her phone lay face down, screen cracked. When I asked to see messages, she stiffened. That silence answered more than words. Something serious had happened, and it was still unfolding quietly, dangerously, beyond excuses, beyond apologies, beyond comfort, beyond control, beyond. That night, sleep refused me. I replayed the warning I'd given, the laugh, the closing door. I realized regret doesn't announce itself immediately. It waits. Emily showered for a long time, scrubbing, as if water could erase choices. When she crawled into bed, she whispered my name. I didn't answer. Outside, a siren wailed, carrying consequences closer than either was expected. Patient, loud, unavoidable, circling, the truth we feared, approaching, fast and final dawn. By morning, the truth arrived without knocking. A knock came instead. 2 officers, calm, respectful. They asked for Emily, then me. A report had been filed, statements conflicted. They needed clarity. Emily's hands shook as she spoke, fragments tumbling. I watched her realize the weight of the night. The party wasn't over. It followed her home, demanding answers we didn't have yet in consequences, sharpening, waiting, patient, precise, unavoidable, personal, immediate, severe, now here. I stood there knowing my warning hadn't been about trust, but foresight. Some places amplify mistakes. Some nights rewrite lives. Emily met my eyes then, fear replacing defiance. She whispered she wished she'd listened. I said nothing. Regret had finally arrived, and it was heavier than anger. What happened at that party would unfold soon, but the damage between us was already done. Irreversible, silent, spreading, consequences, written quietly in memory, law, trust, love, time. The officers left after taking statements, but their presence stayed behind like a stain. Emily sat on the couch staring at her hands, repeating that she never meant for anything to happen. I didn't ask what that meant. I already knew. The warning I'd given wasn't about danger in the abstract. It was about people, about patterns I'd seen enough times to recognize when charm turned predatory, and chaos wore a friendly smile. By noon, the story started leaking out. Texts from mutual friends, cautious and vague. Someone had fallen from a balcony after an argument. Alcohol, shouting, pushing, no one quite sure. Mark's name came up again and again. Emily finally told me the truth in pieces. Mark had been drinking, hovering. She'd tried to brush him off. When she threatened to leave, he grabbed her arm. Another guest intervened. Words escalated. A woman screamed. In the confusion, someone went over the railing. Emily said she froze. Said she didn't push anyone. Said she didn't even see the fall, only heard the sound and the sudden silence after. She said she ran because she was scared, because Mark begged her to go, because he said things would be worse if she stayed. She looked at me like a child expecting punishment and mercy at the same time. The phone rang again. This time it was a detective asking Emily to come in. I watched her face collapse as the reality set in. This wasn't gossip. This wasn't embarrassment. This was legal, permanent, unforgiving. She asked if I'd come with her. I did, though something inside me felt already separated, like I was watching my life through glass. At the station, hours stretched thin. Emily gave her statement. I sat alone, thinking about the night before the party, the laugh, the kiss, the promise. I realized how small moments decide futures, not dramatic choices, but dismissals, not betrayals, but ignoring warnings because they're inconvenient. When she finally emerged, her eyes were hollow. The detective said she wasn't under arrest, but the investigation was ongoing. Mark, it turned out, had fled town. The woman who fell survived, but barely. Charges were being considered. Emily clung to me in the parking lot, sobbing that she wished she'd stayed home, that one party had ruined everything. And that's when I understood something she hadn't yet. The regret wasn't about the party. It was about believing consequences were optional, about thinking that being careful was the same as being safe. I drove us home in silence, past the same streets she'd stumbled down hours earlier, now painfully ordinary. Over the next weeks, the house filled with tension, lawyers, missed work, sleepless nights. Emily jumped at every notification. I supported her through it all, because that's who I am, but support isn't the same as closeness. Trust, once cracked, doesn't shatter loudly. It crumbles quietly, grain by grain. One evening, she asked if I still loved her. I told her the truth. I loved who I thought we were. I loved a version of us before warnings were ignored and lives collided. But love without trust is just memory, and memory can't carry a future. The case eventually settled. Emily wasn't charged, but she was named in reports, questioned by employers, whispered about by friends. Mark was arrested months later. The woman recovered slowly. Life moved on for everyone, unevenly. Emily asked if we could start over. New city, new routines. I thought about it carefully. Then I told her no, not because I hated her, but because staying would mean silencing the part of me that had been right all along, the part she laughed at. She moved out quietly. No screaming, no drama, just boxes and apologies, and a final look full of regret that came too late to matter. Sometimes, Warnings are really boundaries in disguise. Ignore them, and regret will arrive eventually. Not loudly, not dramatically, just heavy enough to change everything forever.